Hey guys. All right. Brush is the Maggard WCS handle. The brush is the Maggard SHD knot. This is the fan-shaped knot. It's not rounded on the corners, so it's the fan-shaped. And I have really cold water today. I'm going to try something. These tips, they do absorb more water than your standard badger tips, because they are, this is a 2-band knot. The tips have been treated with bleach, that sort of, or some type of thing like that. And the tips would probably be too firm, not as luxuriously soft if they weren't treated. And so many 2-band brush knot makers will do that. So it's common practice. It does mean maybe the tips don't have as long of a shelf life. Maybe they go 5 or 6 years before the tips just kind of lose it because of that treatment. But if you have the brush in a cycle of a rotation with several brushes or a couple of brushes, obviously then a 6-year length brush could lengthen out to an 18-year brush if you have just a simple rotation of 3 brushes. So there is that. But if you are a one-brush person or pure economy and you just want to get one brush and you want it to last and pass it down to your kids and all that, then maybe a treated knot is not the best way to go in terms of a badger. Maybe a silver tip is going to be really soft, something like that. All right, that is the brush. The software that we're going to be working it on is this little sample right here, Southern Witchcrafts Samhain. And now look at that, that says aftershave splash, but obviously this is a soap sample. I got this at at a meetup that I attended recently in North Carolina last year, just a few months ago in September. And this was I got to meet Stephen and Courtney, the people behind this. I know they're not actual witches, they're not practicing or anything like that. They just like this this theme that they've gone with for their business. I'm going to have to hook out. Obviously, you can't get a brush in there and really have any efficiency with working and loading up some soap. So the way you do samples is to hook out some with like a 1/4 teaspoon measure is what I like to use. And it's very successful for most soaps. The razor is a vintage Gillette made in the UK. Pretty easy to tell the UK's. They have this one has Brit-Pat for British patent. And then it has down here made in England. So pretty easy. This is an Aristocrat Jr. Nickel plated. And a couple of things to look for. This flat base plate, it doesn't have a diamond bevel in the base plate. It's all flat. The rail here doesn't have the little T flanges here on the end. I actually like those T flanges, but they're not here. It's called a notched center bar. See if I can angle it right. You see that little notch cut out right there? That was to pull blades out of a special gimmicky little blade dispenser, but we don't use those anymore. Most of us don't. And then you could, there's the bottom is rounded right here. It's not total cut flat. And then also the knob here looks different. You could almost think this was a 40s style super speed, which is super common, and it is not. It is not common at all. Main thing is that flat base plate. The underside, you can also look and see how it's flat. It's not the same piece of metal, but it is flat, and otherwise you would see a diamond bevel on some other things. Now this is a user grade one. You can see some plating loss right there, and you can see that underneath the plating here, it's brass. And so even if the plating were all to go away, this would still be an excellent shaver and last for lifetimes because of that brass. Heavy. Relatively speaking, you know, instead of some other types of razors. And I think let's go ahead and load up the blade. We're going to put a Personna Platinum in there. It looks like maybe I've just got about 11 uses on this one. I've been trying it on several different razors, so why not take a turn on this guy. So it's as simple as dropping the guy in there. I think I've only used this one time back in March of last year. I was talking with somebody online, and he found one of these as well. And he told me, at first I thought it could be either the 51 or the 53. The English aristocrats would put numbers to the sets of razors. The tricky thing is it's the number of the set. Set meaning the box, the blades, and the razor. And so occasionally the same razor would go in different sets, and it was a little bit confusing. And so now, if all you have is the razor, there are a few models where you don't actually know what number it is because it occurred in a couple different sets. But the 53 is another one I thought this could be, but my friend called into question, or called to my attention that the 53, according to a write-up in a forum post, was plated in silver, whereas the nickel is the 51. And so it would have been more popular, more common to have the nickel-plated version. Silver-plated would have been a little bit more expensive. And I would imagine the silver-plated would also be very tarnished at this point, unless somebody just recently shined it up. But I've had this sitting around in my drawer for a year, so it definitely would have tarnished by then. All right, so we've got the razor in place, the razor blade. And so now, let me look for my little measuring scoop. You know, I used to scoop all my big tubs of soap, not just samples. But then it just didn't feel like the whole vibe of shaving to me. Now, I will still scoop out of a soap that I don't think I'm going to like, but I want to test out anyway. Some people like the fact that your brush hasn't been all over it. Now, this is the base that they came out with in like 2018 or so. I don't think it's their first base. Maybe 2019. I can't remember really. It's all kind of jumbling together, but it's not going to be their first one. It's going to be their second base. They updated it. So we've got about a 1/4 teaspoon here. And we're ready to go otherwise. All right. So I'm going to poke this out. It's somewhat soft. It's medium. It's easy to press down here into the bowl. So it's also going to be easy for the brush to pick it up and to integrate it into with the water. I like to spread it around. You don't want big chunks sitting there that are not pressed into the bottom, because if they start floating around, then they don't get agitated by the brush. And I've gone the whole shave and still found chunks at the end. So that means I didn't get as much load as I could have. I didn't use as much soap. Let's see here. Oh yeah, let's get a little bit more, get all that's in here. As you can see, kind of the color. It's kind of a light brown, light tan color. All right, we'll rinse that little spoon off later. Now the notes, quite a big list here for this soap. I am going to wet my face a little bit and talk about the notes. All right. Boy, looks like about 10 different notes. I'm going to hold it up with me while I talk, because I'll tell you about the dry smell. Now, vanilla immediately jumps out as a fairly dominant part of the scent accord. And so if you don't really like a vanilla scented soap that at least has that as a forefront, now it's got a bunch of little side guys that are helping him out and moving him in different areas, but still, if vanilla in the list turns you off, then pass this guy by, is my advice. Bourbon, tobacco, I think maybe I can pick up a little bit of the bourbon. Pumpkin, probably a little bit of that. I'm glad it's only a little, at least for me. Sandalwood, nutmeg, I think I do pick up that. Oud, incense, probably a little of that. Amber, vanilla, hazelnut. Yeah, hazelnut, I get that. Charred wood and musk. So that is the scent list according to their website. Also want to mention that they brought this out right before Halloween. In fact, the way you actually pronounce this soap scent, I think, was Samhain. Gaelic is just such a weird language. It's spelled Samhain, but it's pronounced Samhain or something very close to that. You can find out on their website, I'm sure. But as I was talking to Stephen in the at the meetup, he said, you know, when Courtney and I are talking about this thing in the shop, we call it Samhain. You know, so that's pretty funny. So I'm going to stick with calling it Samhain as well. Just, you know, sounds easier. So what I am perceiving the most, definitely the vanilla, maybe a little amber. The hazelnut is there as well. I can perceive that. Maybe a little bit of the nutmeg, maybe a little bit of pumpkin, and maybe a touch of bourbon. I'm sure some of the other notes are there is in a supporting roles. Amber is definitely in this genre as well. But the other ones that I didn't specifically call out from the list are just not as noticeable at this point from the dry puck. All right, so I love using the 1/4 teaspoon for samples because most soaps use that much or less. There are a couple that, maybe one or two just, that need more. But obviously, once you try that out, you'll find out. Many need there's some that only need half. Only need maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is really quite a small amount. Those are very concentrated. Often they're a little bit harder because the soaps have had really a long time to cure. So this scent came out in time for people to buy it for the Halloween, the harvest type season. The write-up says that this is the name of the Gaelic time period or festival or something like that. That symbolized the ending of the harvest season and the beginning of the darker days of winter. And so that's where the name comes from. So this is just coming together neatly without adding any water. I shook out a lot of the water that was in there. It's a good base. Tried it in a few other scents, and so I know I'm going to get a good performing lather here. Let's go ahead and put a teaspoon of water in. If you're having trouble with your lathers, you've tried taking a brush to some soap and you don't know, maybe your brush is too wet, maybe somehow that's preventing you from picking up the soap, maybe it's too dry and it's doing the same thing, maybe somehow you're picking up too much soap and so your lather is just too dry and rich and you need so much water that you can't fathom that you actually need that water. Try just whipping out the 1/4 teaspoon. As long as it's not a hard soap like Mitchell's Wolfat or Williams or Tabac or Fine Accoutrements, Haslinger, you know, you're going to be able to get that measuring cup through it, measuring spoon. And maybe that will help you to know that you know guaranteed that you're starting off with an amount that will get you there, that will get you a good lather. Of course, that means you need to use a bowl because you have to press the sample down into the bowl. And if that's the case, you don't have to buy a lather bowl. You don't have to 3D print one like this one. This is a Roger Quintero designed lather bowl. I helped him just a little, and he printed up for me as a kindness. So I'm very grateful about that. There is a link in the description of this video that points you to the files needed if you want to print your own. This is the XL version, the extra large size of the different options you can choose. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can maybe check your public library. Sometimes they have some. If you're in a big city perhaps, or a rich city, well, I'll say advanced city. You can also go to makexyz.com. As far as I understand, they are brokers who will connect you with somebody who has that kind of equipment, and then you can arrange to have them print your item for you and ship it to you. Or if you find a local person, that's even better, because you can maybe save some money and go pick it up. It'll be great if someday those 3D printers become more affordable. Well, this lather is looking terrific. Let's feel of it. Nice cushion. Good creamy feel. It's not a thick creamy. It's got some lightness to it as well. It leaves behind a really nice slick layer. And this is wonderful because this, well, you know what? Actually, that first batch, the first base that they did, they kept at a pretty low price, but I think they bumped this one up. Maybe they brought some more premium ingredients to it. I think maybe $17 or something like that is what the new stuff is selling for, and that's comparable to some other great work. But this just feels nice. It is a creamy feel here. As I move the my thumb around on my fingers, I do feel my fingerprints here, but as I move my thumb over, I'm not completely wiping away the cream that was there. Some soaps do that, weaker lathers, and it's more like a watery slickness. This feels more than that, better than that. It's not a buttery kind of slickness maybe that like a tallow soap might give you, but it's maybe like an oily, a good oily, not a greasy, bad, you know, but just like a nice slick cream, and it's allowing me to play with it just fine. It's not over bubbly or airy or anything like that, so that's going to feel good on my face. It takes a second to wash away, so that's nice, because I usually like my soap to have a post-shave quality, not post-shave, residual slickness quality about it, where if you're buffing up an area and you've removed the lather because you've already done a pass that way, if you see an area you want to touch up, then if you've got some secondary or residual slickness with your soap, then you can just go ahead and do it instead of having to lay down more soap on that particular area just for safety. My friend online, Buzz, got himself, I think they're on order, maybe he said, a couple of Maggard SHD knots. And so he's going to be looking forward to trying these out. But we've been talking about it, and so I just felt like trying this knot again. The scent is nice. It's not too strong. That's one thing I really like about Southern Witchcrafts. Their scents are of good strength. I can enjoy them during the shave. They're not too light for me, and but they're not obnoxious. So to me, they're a really nice level of strength, just right in the middle where I enjoy them. Okay, we've got a lot of lather here. So it looks like 1/4 teaspoon really is a good economical value. Let's see the texture of this soap. See those waves and valleys? Sometimes that means that this guy needs a little bit more water, but he might be just right. But let's look how he behaves in the drop. Okay, he's kind of keeping his shape in the bowl there. He wiggles and then comes back, so it's not super elastic. We'll also do a different kind of look at it. We'll kind of pull half of it out and see how the connection goes. See that wall right there, that peak? It is slow, very slowly kind of collapsing, but it's still remaining kind of strong. Now, soaps differ. Sometimes I do not want to take a soap farther than this. But in this case, I am going to add another 1/2 teaspoon of water. Now, just by nature, if you use the same soap base over and over, you're just going to grow, after a year, you're going to grow some really good sensors automatically without even trying to know when your lather is right. But to speed things up, that recognition, that's why I show you some of the tests. I feel it with my fingers. How does the slickness feel? How light does the lather feel? Then I do the peak tests where I pull it up out. I do the little drop test there. One of the things is you take your brush, you put it in the middle, you go around, and you pull it out. And if all your lather is up here at the top, and your brush in the splay was down deep and it was kind of digging a hole, and you've got all this as almost like a balcony, then many times that means you need to keep adding water. But of course, that's your preference. If you discover you like it at that point, then that's something to look at. Where this one is not giving me the balcony, the lather is elastic and creamy enough where it's falling back into place, falling back into the brush. Wonderful looking lather. Let's shave with this. I can always add more water pretty easily. The tiny waist on this brush means that it's not really all that comfortable for me to, let me rinse it off so you can see it. It's not really comfortable for my hands to hold it like this, because it jams the tips of my fingers into this wall here. However, it's super comfortable when I'm grinding the lather, making the lather with this type of grip. All right, now I'm going to throw some water in my face just to rehydrate. A little bit less than 24 hours of growth, but definitely shavable. This location I have hard water, and I'm usually using it lukewarm. Pretty soft tips, not the softest. I'm interested to seeing maybe over time if they do soften up a little bit more, but it is soft, quite soft, and so it's enjoyable. I do recommend these knots. It splays pretty easily. It's not a bunch of work to splay. That's a very pleasant scent. I think Samhain was just so popular just online the other day, maybe even earlier today, maybe yesterday. Stephen made a post that said They did another production run of Samhain, and so their site was going to be restocked with it, as well as Maggard razors. And so if you're interested in that one, it's still not too late to grab it. It was just so popular, they wanted to bring it back for the winter months. It's not overwhelming with me with the vanilla. I tried Desserology. Desserology is kind of how it looks. And it was a lot of vanilla, and it was a little too much for me. This is backed off some. What do I smell now that it's in lather form? Yeah, some of the vanilla has backed off a little bit. I'm starting to smell some of the other items. Ah, neat. Yeah, it's very interesting scent. I can see why it's so popular. All right, let's see how this Aristocrat Jr. Is going to shave. Wow, this blade is terrific in it. Now, this is, of course, for my skin. If your skin is very different from mine, you may have a very different experience, but the geometry on this head is tremendous. It's just gliding through the hairs with very little resistance. I have a tiny bit of blade feel, but it's very minimal. It's comfortable. It almost feels like the edge of like a credit card, you know, something like that, instead of a sharp blade edge. So a lot of comfort with this one, but I bet it's going to be nice and efficient. So a tremendous little razor. And I wonder if they called it the Aristocrat Jr. because it gives you that same head that is used with some of the expensive Aristocrats. But because it's got the more basic body that's less adorned, that it's going to be a cheaper item as a whole. So you get the feel of something really exclusive, but you get to have it at a lower price. Maybe that's the reasoning behind this particular model. All right, face feels tremendous. No irritation or anything like that. All right, let's go back in for pass number 2. Kind of pressing the brush in to get that lather up in the middle of it. These dense brushes sometimes tend to empty that center part of the brush. And you might think, oh, tragedy, and see, it's kind of starting to happen now, but not a big deal, because do your scrubbing. And then switch to painting. Then you're able to use all that stuff that moved to the outside of the knot. Nice soft brush, pleasure to use. And I'm so glad that the vanilla has backed off some, because I probably wouldn't enjoy it nearly as much. I'm very happy with this mix. Unsure whether I'd buy a full tub of it necessarily, because there's just so many great soaps out there, you know. But if I only had this one, I'd probably be enjoying it every day. It's my guess. All right, so that first pass went crazy good, and so I can only assume that these future passes are going to go just as good or better. So this Personna Platinum is a great match, at least for my skin. Blades are super subjective. I always recommend a sampler. There's one at tryablade.com. It's called the Top 10 Sampler. It's his top 10 selling blades. And so that's a good, if you're looking to explore some different blades, that's a good attitude to have, a good policy. Go for the ones that so many other people have had success with, because otherwise it's just best just to pick random, you know, because you never know. And the good thing is, there's some expensive ones out there. feather, Kai, pole silver is starting to get more expensive. And some others that, I think with Kai's you have to pay $40. Is that $40 is a reasonable price to get 100 of them. And that's quite expensive when Astra Platinums are more like $7 or $8 for 100. But it could be that just because it's more expensive has no bearing on whether it'll work better for you or not. So you may find that Astra Platinum works better than a Kai. All the better, right? All right, third pass. Well, I've got tons of lather, so looks like this base from Southern Witchcrafts is a nice economical. Looks like I've got 3 more passes in the bowl, so I could definitely back off on loading up that measuring spoon. This is a good lather. This is a really nice base. I like to go twice on my cheeks with the cross grain pass, because my cheeks always get shaved well, kind of no matter what I do. So I get a nice shave. Even if I don't try to get baby butt smooth. BBS is what that stands for. DFS is another abbreviation for damn fine shave, and that's kind of the one right down from BBS, and that's kind of what I go for. Just a good close shave. CCS is another abbreviation. Close comfortable shave, I believe, is that one. All right, how does my, oh, that's nice. That's a very nice close cut right here. I'll take some of this little silky goodness and just kind of apply it like a balm until I get it all rinsed off and stuff. Nice. What a terrific soap base. Great people. I may not necessarily, as a Christian, I may not necessarily agree with their theme or the level in which they pursue it, but they're good folks, and it was a pleasure to meet them, and they make good products. All right, now full rinse. So this one didn't really get me too hard as far as the scent strength. There's nothing punchy in here, nothing bitter, nothing to jump out at you, refresh you like in the morning. So I think this is a nice scent for night shavers in the winter season, in the fall especially. Holy cow, it would just match up with those seasons nicely. And I think it's got some of the fall pieces with it, but other things are coming into play now. Maybe some of that charred wood. Fortunately, the amber has backed off. I personally am glad about that. Maybe a little bit of the musk is coming out to play at this point. I'm not really sure about some of the other pieces, but it has definitely backed off from being a high vanilla scent. And so if you're a big vanilla fan and you can get a nice, this might be a good one for you, but then that vanilla is kind of going to depart, or maybe you get used to it. If you don't like vanilla, you still may like this soap, because that vanilla is there in the dry tub format, but it doesn't stick around too much once you make the lather, at least if you make it like I do. It's not a strong scent. I'm going to say 4 or 5 out of 10 is the scent strength. So it's not obnoxious. Really just smooth and easy with some really natural elements to it. I definitely enjoy it. I think Maggard is trying to compete with other knot companies like Elite Razors with these SHD knots, and I think they are competing with them. It is lower cost than the Elite knots, but so far with my testing, the Elites have softer tips, but these are still soft. So it is a very soft versus soft, you know, kind of comparison. And in fact, some people may not like the ultra soft tips of the Elite, but I think I could be happy with this. It might be tough knowing that there was even better stuff out there, but I mean, come on, it's a really soft, comfortable shave. Surely I would be fine with just enjoying that if I had to. Final tip, if you're using a knot like this that has these tips that sometimes get a little softer, sometimes maybe even gel, then the Fanchurian knot from That Darn Rob kind of behaves that way too. If you notice that it's more firm and less comfortable at the beginning of the shave than it is at the end, try to soak it longer beforehand, and you might be able to get that comfort at the beginning, because the tips just need to be soaked and fill up with water and all that stuff to get really soft. So if you can feel the softness change and you want it to be more soft all the way through, soak a little bit more beforehand. Maybe add 10 minutes to your soak or something like that. So when I hear notes like pumpkin, nutmeg, vanilla, that immediately sets me to think that it's more of a gourmand scent, that it might not want me to cause it to hang around a lot. Kind of a nichey thing. If I feel that way, then perfect, but normally I might not go that route. Something a little bit more sophisticated that's doesn't quite feel so rich and thick. Well, it may smell really strong of vanilla, from at least mine did with the sample, the dry sample, but then by the time I got it in lather form, it switched to something that was more universal, something that was not gourmand, but had all these great notes into it. And if you wanted to, in your mind, take it to a gourmand level, you could. Or if you just wanted to keep it in the, in the incense, a slight tweak of vanilla and some woody notes, and that bourbon and tobacco, if you wanted to keep it in that side of your mind as well, it's easy to do. It works both ways. And so this is not one that, if you're afraid of that certain kind of niche, then in my opinion, you don't need to be afraid with this one, because it does change, and it changes into something very sophisticated and mature, in my opinion, not kitschy or anything like that. So I'm really happy with this scent, and I can see why they brought it back again in this winter season, because I can see why people like it. So my face feels tremendous. I don't really feel like I need to put on any post-shave treatment. I've got oily skin anyway, so I'm sure my skin would rebound nicely. But I've got this Detonate from Stirling. It's a recent deal. May still have it on their site. This is Victor and Rolf Spice Bomb, a kind of a tribute or inspired by that scent. And apparently I like that, because I like this one. They marketed it last Black Friday, I believe, 2018 Black Friday, as Kaboom, but it's the same scent. They changed the name because Noble Otter already put out a Kaboom. Let's see if these spices work well with the Samhain or Samhain. Who knows? Maybe they'll all clash. But I want an excuse to try this guy out. Yeah, spicy and warm. We'll let the alcohol kind of burn off a little bit. And I didn't get very much stinging, so it looks like we're getting a nice technique and good shave. And by now, with this many uses on the blade, it's nice and smoothed out, but still cutting really well. I'll tell you what, this is a wonderful shaver. So here's that flat base plate again. The underside of it. And I could easily enjoy shaving with this for a very long time on a desert island if it came to it. Nice, nice. It may not be the one I'd pick if I could choose, but if I got stuck with that one, the shave was wonderful. I would just really enjoy it. So that was a 1/4 teaspoon worth of lather, and looks like 3 2/3 teaspoons of water. All right, and that is kind of a typical ratio. And that made, I think there were probably 4 passes left over. So I used 3 passes plus 4, so 7 total passes of lather. So obviously we can tweak down the ratio a little smaller and be more economical next time. There is a spice in this detonate. I'm going to guess clove. Something like clove. Don't like it. It could be that I'm smelling it because the Samhain has kind of pointed my nose in certain spice directions, you know, and it could be there are some notes inside the detonate here that are being muted because of I've gotten used to them with the Samhain. So I don't know whether I just don't like the detonate or whether I just don't like it with this soap. Definitely have to try it again later. The Kaboom soap I got from Stirling, that was this same mix. I love this soap a lot. I just hadn't had a chance to get the aftershave yet. I don't usually buy the aftershave, but this was on sale, so I thought I'd try it. Well, unfortunately, this shave ended with a little bit of a letdown with the scent of the aftershave. But again, I'll try it some other time with a different scent and just see, or even in the middle of the day without any shaving soap scent on me. See if I like it then. You know, who knows? A lot of times certain aspects of a scent will be masked when it's in soap form because the solid soap is a really difficult medium to communicate some types of scent. And so it's possible that what I don't like is masked and hidden in a soap form. And so I enjoy the Kaboom Stirling, aka Detonate soap, whereas I may not like the AS, the aftershave splash. So, but everything else was terrific. Loved the razor and the blade combo. Smooth shave, even on that first pass. Wonderful. Loved I really enjoy the brush. Nice density, but it does have enough flex in the backbone not to shove me around. I can splay it a little bit if I want. Nice soft tips. Not as expensive as like an Elite razor brush. But if you're into ultra soft tips, at least from my first few shaves with this knot, then maybe the Elite razor is something to save up for and eventually get, if that's very important to you. The soap, tremendous. Really I like the soap base, and I like the scent. It surprised me a little bit. Kind of expected it to be like a pumpkin spice latte, not in theme, in concept, where it's just something that comes around this season, you kind of do, and feels nice, but then you quickly grow out of it. That is not what this scent is, for me at least. Really enjoy it. It could be a soap that I use for a very long time. It's just well done. Nice job, Courtney. I believe she's the one who puts together all the scent formulations as a part of that Southern Witchcrafts team. I was thinking of Dogwood. Well, that's the brush side. Dogwood Handcrafts is the brush side that Stephen works on. All right. So everything was terrific except for the aftershave. Really happy about this one. Hope there was something that here in this shave that worked well for you. You take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.